Hi, my name's Sherry Sanders, and I'm a county extension agent working in the field of agriculture in White County as a part of the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. And this is Agriculture. This series is meant to celebrate and empower women working in the field of agriculture in the state of Arkansas. This month's feature is Dr. Casandra Cox. She's an assistant professor here at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville in ag leadership and ag communication. And this is her story.
So my parents are Liz and Mary Crumley. As I mentioned, they're originally from Texas. They grew up in Central Texas. My dad definitely had an ag background growing up on a farm. My mom, kind of on the outskirts, her grandparents had farmed and things like that, and then she and my dad did some farming and management of various livestock while they were early in their marriage. When they moved to Arkansas, they continued that tradition. It was an important part of our growing up. I have two siblings. I have an older sibling who's 22 months older, Alan Crumley, and he was kind of the start of our entry into equine. He got a pony first because he was born first, and we goofed around on the pony everywhere. And then when I came along, my dad ended up buying an American quarter horse for me, so that way I'd have a big mare I could ride around and kind of do things with my brother. I started riding when I was 3. We started showing when I was about 4 years old. So I showed all the way through my senior year of high school, and then transitioned out of showing because I knew in Northwest Arkansas I wouldn't have the resources to keep my horse and do things like that. 5 years after I was born, my youngest sibling came along, and I just have these really fond memories. We had this amazing Poco Bueno mare that was our pleasure mare, and people would walk by our trailer and my baby brother would be holding on to her leg while my mom and dad prepped all of us to trade out on horses and get ready. And people would come by and say, "Do you know that your baby is standing right under that horse?" And my parents were like, "Yes, she's our babysitter." You know, she was the most amazing animal, and probably by today's standards, people would criticize that. But my parents were always mindful of making sure that we were on quality horses that could teach us something, but protect us and not put us in danger, but could also grow as we grew in our skills. So I always appreciated that. My dad often says, "I'm sorry I couldn't provide you all with better quality horses," and I try to explain to him the life lessons we learned, the experiences, our time together as a family was probably the most important part of that. Okay, as I mentioned, I started riding and showing when I was 4 years old. We dabbled in a little bit of everything. So we did pleasure events, we did speed events, we worked our way up to horsemanship. We also did reining later on. And so it was a really interesting experience to go through and have the opportunity to show. We showed locally and then qualified to the state show. So we would travel to Little Rock to Barton Coliseum every year to participate in that. And it was another opportunity that we knew on Labor Day weekend, our whole family was going to go. We were going to stay in a hotel and swim and have a good time and hang out with our friends, but then we were also going to compete. As that transitioned on, I did 1D, 2D, 3D barrel races. Fortunately, I was able to, when I got older, haul myself because I had a hardship license, and I was able to travel to some other areas. My parents trusted me enough to know that I was competent and capable to haul the big trailers or the little trailers, and I had some freedom to go and do some barrel races by myself. I always competed in 4-H shows as well, so we went to district and state, and then several years we went on to regional 4-H horse shows. Later in life, when we transitioned to more AQHA showing, I had a really special mare. She was another Poco Bueno, so when we retired, Poco Pixie Bars, who had been my brother's babysitter at the horse shows in the early days, I acquired a mare that we called Onyx. And she went blind when she was between 2 and 3 years old. And she ended up being just my mare. But we trained her in pleasure events. I showed her in all of that. And then, because my opinion personally is that Poco Buenos are the finest athletes you're ever gonna find, I would sometimes ride her in speed events when I wanted to qualify for a buckle at a 4-H district show. When we went to state 4-H horse show, they would have a contest called team pinning, which required a team of 3. Onyx and I were the cutter, so we rode into the cattle. So I rode my blind mare into the cattle and cut out what the rest of my team was going to push down to try to win the contest. So it really demonstrated that trust and that teamwork could come from a person and a horse. As an introverted individual, I didn't really love team activities other than maybe judging events, but you still judged independently. You just practiced with other people to get on the same page. So it was an opportunity for me to really forge a close connection with an animal that taught me a lot about love and loss and, struggles, and that we were in it together. I happened to win the Arkansas 4-H Queens contest, and I was approached by one of the agents in the state, Miss Sherry. And Miss Sherry said, "Have you ever considered doing a Queens contest?" And I said, "Well, just this and the state horse show or association horse shows." And she suggested that we should work together and get prepared for the Arkansas State Queens contest at the state fair. So I went through that process and had a great learning experience with her. I would say I might have been a little too bullheaded about which horses I was going to show. I had faith that Onyx, because I had ridden her in reining before, she had performed well. I went to the AQHA show on her in trail, and we're talking like the national AQHA show in trail on a blind horse. I knew she could do it. And I felt this loyalty to her, and so I probably should have ridden my brother's reining horse to compete. We sat a little too long at the entrance gate waiting for our turn, and you can't really goose your horse up and get them ready to go when you're sitting in the arena. So she showed at the rodeo Queens contest more like a pleasure mare than what we should have, and we didn't win, but it was still a great experience. It taught me that sometimes being loyal makes your heart full, but maybe doesn't win the contest. And so I didn't really have any other regrets other than I was worried that I had let Miss Sherry and my family down, that I had a horse that could have done very well, and I chose, what I believe to be the sentimental, kind of the loyalty to my mare over that.